Video 6, Primary versus Secondary Data Sources Area CHES, Subcompetencies 1.2.1, 1.3.1. Review the learning objectives for this video. Alright, now we are getting into one of the most fundamental distinctions you will encounter on the CHES exam, and this is one you really want to have down cold. We are talking about the difference between primary and secondary data. Understanding this distinction is essential because choosing the right data source directly affects the quality of your needs assessment. So let me walk you through this. Primary data is information that you or your team collect firsthand specifically for your current assessment. When you design a survey for your community, conduct interviews with stakeholders, or facilitate focus groups with your priority population, you are generating primary data. The major advantage of primary data is specificity. You control the questions, the sample, the timing, and the methods, so the data directly addresses your assessment questions. That is powerful. However, primary data collection comes with significant costs. It requires time to design instruments, recruit participants, collect responses, and analyze results. It also requires financial resources for printing, incentives, staff time, and potentially technology platforms. Secondary data, by contrast, is information that was previously collected by someone else for a different purpose. Government agencies, universities, hospitals, and research organizations regularly collect and publish health data. The major advantage of secondary data is efficiency. It is often free or low cost, immediately available, and covers large populations. The trade-off is that secondary data may not perfectly match your priority population, your geographic area, or the specific health variables you care about most. Here is the takeaway I want you to remember for the exam. Most comprehensive needs assessments use both types of data. Secondary data provides the broad picture, and primary data fills in the gaps specific to your community. When you see that combination in an answer choice, that is usually the best answer. Now let me walk you through the major national secondary data sources that you absolutely must know for the certification exam. I promise this will be worth your time because these come up regularly. First is the Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System, known as BRFSS. This is the largest continuously conducted health survey in the world, and that alone makes it worth remembering. It is administered by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, through state health departments. BRFSS uses telephone surveys to collect data on health-related risk behaviors, chronic health conditions, and use of preventive services among adults aged 18 and older. It provides state-level and some local-level data, making it extremely useful for community health assessments. Second is the Youth Risk Behavior Surveillance System, or YRBSS. Also run by the CDC, this survey focuses specifically on high school students. It measures 6 categories of health-related behaviors that contribute to the leading causes of death and disability among young people, including behaviors related to unintentional injuries, violence, tobacco use, alcohol and drug use, sexual behaviors, and unhealthy dietary behaviors. Third is the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, known as NHANES. Now here is what makes NHANES really unique and interesting. It combines interviews with actual physical examinations and laboratory tests. Participants visit mobile examination centers where trained staff measure blood pressure, cholesterol, glucose levels, and other biomarkers. This makes NHANES data especially valuable for identifying undiagnosed conditions. Fourth is the United States Census, conducted every 10 years. which provides comprehensive demographic data including age, race, income, education, housing, and employment. And finally, vital records include birth certificates, death certificates, and marriage and divorce records collected by each state. Death certificates are particularly valuable because they include cause of death information used to calculate mortality rates. You are building a great foundation by learning these. Let us keep going. This next concept is something every health educator faces in real practice, and it is tested on the exam as well. How do you balance the cost of data collection against the specificity of the information you need? This is the cost versus specificity trade-off, and once you understand it, a lot of exam questions become much clearer. Secondary data sits at one end of this spectrum. It is typically free or very low cost, covers large populations, and is readily available. However, it may not include data specific to your community. For example, BRFSS provides excellent state-level data on physical activity, but it will not tell you about the specific exercise habits of Latino adults in your particular zip code. Primary data sits at the other end. It is expensive and time-consuming to collect, but it gives you exactly the information you need about exactly the population you serve. A survey designed for Latino adults in your service area can ask culturally relevant questions in Spanish and English, use appropriate reading levels, and measure the exact behaviors you plan to address. Now here is the best practice, and this is the answer the exam expects. Use a layered approach. Start with secondary data to understand the broad health landscape. Then identify the gaps, the questions that secondary data cannot answer for your specific population. Finally, design targeted primary data collection to fill those gaps. This combination is sometimes called data triangulation, which means using multiple data sources and methods to cross-validate your findings. Triangulation strengthens the credibility and reliability of your assessment. When you see an exam question asking about the best first step in a needs assessment, the answer is almost always to review existing data, meaning secondary sources, before investing in primary data collection. That layered approach is your go-to strategy. Nice work getting through this. Let us move on. Read the scenario stem aloud. Give students 30 seconds to consider options before advancing. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is C because it demonstrates the recommended layered approach. Start with available secondary data such as BRFSS and hospital records to understand the broad picture, then use targeted primary data collection such as focus groups to explore specific questions about barriers for your priority population. Option A relies only on state-level data that may not reflect local conditions. Option B is unnecessarily expensive for a limited budget. Option D skips assessment entirely, which violates a core competency of the health education profession. Summarize the